Morning. Hi, we're going to talk about Chapter 14 today. And Chapter 14 is about introductions and conclusion. The most important part of the speech is how you introduce the speech to the audience, and the conclusion is just the review of it. I'm going to begin by telling you that a compelling introduction is not a substitute for a well-developed speech, but it is essential to the success of the speech you're going to be giving. A good opening previews what is going to be followed so the people know exactly what it is that they can expect. An effective conclusion ensures the audience remembers. So think about a movie. We've gone and seen a movie. What do you see before the preview? It whets your appetite of the movie you want to see. Then you see the movie, and at the end, you will review it and you'll share it with friends. That is the same thing that we're talking about in what a speech does. It gives you a preview, you then explain it, and then you go to the review. So you can use all sorts of support that we're going to talk about in here, and let's go ahead and get started. When you prepare an introduction, the choice that you make about an introduction will affect the outcome of the entire speech. In the first several minutes, the audience members decide, like it, don't like it, move on. So a speech has several functions. One of them is they arouse the audience attention. I call that the hook. The next thing is to introduce the topic and the purpose. I call that the specific goal. Third thing is establish the credibility and then preview the main points. Last on our final speech that we'll be doing this semester is motivating them to action. Now, I know people learn in various different ways, so I want to show you some gestures that help many people learn what the function of the introduction is. So let me go ahead and stand up. There we are. Now, the first step of the speech is called the attention step. In the attention, I want you to imagine that you're in the Army and you take your arms out and you go, attention. The next thing is called the specific goal, where you take your hands, they come down here, they come at this place, and it is one idea. The hands are unified together. The specific goal is what we're going to be talking about in this speech. How to become a successful person and land yourself on a TEDx stage in life. The next thing we're going to talk about is the credibility. The credibility is these muscles. It's about me. What makes me special? That's the credibility. I've been on the TED stage 3 times. I've coached thousands of people. Some of my students have been there, and you too, listening to the speech, can be on that stage as well. The next thing is the thesis. And the thesis, I call it moving from the beginning all the way to the end, because we need to repeat that. That is the 4 parts of the introduction. So let me go ahead and say it again. Attention, goal, credibility, and thesis running from the beginning to end. Now, another way to remember what the introduction does is think about you have a child, a grandmother, or someone who doesn't want to get out of bed. So you say, attention, Johnny, Johnny, get out of bed. Today's a special day. Well, what makes today special? The specific goal is, well, today is your birthday. And why do I have to listen to you? Because I'm your mommy. When mommy says, you go ahead and do. Well, what are we going to do today, Mom? We're going to go from Disneyland to Magic Mountain. So now you know the formation of what the introduction sounds like. Let me tell you how we put it all together. The first thing here is called the hook. And there's a checklist in our book in a green box that says, preparing the introduction after you've completed the body. So you will know exactly what you need to preview. You can't go ahead and do a speech unless you know what you're talking about. And this is really paramount. One of the things that a lot of people mess up on is they have points that say one thing and their preview says something else. There should be a match. It's like a marriage. What you say in the body of your outline, you need to preview in those pre-op documents about what you want to follow. So keep the introduction brief. It's only 10 to 15% of the entire speech. And lastly, practice it until you feel you've got it right. Because just like an Olympic performer, you want to seal that deal and get them in so they can go ahead and understand you. The first part of the introduction is called the hook, or the attention getter. What you want to do is you want to get the audience to listen to you, like what you have to say, and go ahead and proceed to listen. It needs to have some connection to what it is you're going ahead and talking about. One of the strongest things that you can do is tell a story. A story is a way to go ahead and bring people in. So There once was a lady that I was working with, and she wanted to do a TED Talk. And her experience was she was part of the Olympics. She'd gone to Europe to go ahead and do this. And as she was telling me about her going ahead and speaking up, her father told me, she told me a story about her father washing her mouth out with soap because he didn't want her to do that. He didn't think that was a lucrative career. Imagine if that was what I went ahead and told you as the introduction to my speech. Short story, short, concise, and to the point. The next thing that you can do is remember that stories transform people's lives. It helps them overcome obstacles. The second method that you can do is establish a common ground. A lot of people come to this class, they're full of anxiety, they're full of angst. And we know that we're all in here together. So maybe you could say something that, a 5-week class runs really quick, and I want to make sure that you know that we're all in the same boat. So fasten your seatbelts and let's take a journey because it's going to be over before you know it. That's what we talk about, building common ground, expressing their interests, their concerns. You can offer unusual information. Well, they say, this is an old textbook that I had when we had stairs and we walked into class, that it would be really cool to bring a cow to your classroom, but it wouldn't be so funny because cows don't like to go down the stairs. So there might be some extra scents and odors that you leave in the class. Short, funny story, concise, and to the point. The next thing you could do is you could pose a question. You never know with the words you say whose life you can change. Those are the words. It's in one of my first books there, um, called Random Acts of Kindness. The next thing that we're going ahead and talking about is a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is one that has no answer. I bet you there isn't a person in this class who doesn't know what it is that we need to succeed. Another way you can do is you can use humor. Now, one of the things about humor is it builds rapport, but the humor can also be easily backfire if you tell jokes that are insensitive to the people in the class, that are sarcastic, that belittle race, sex, ability, or otherwise. A good rule of thumb is humor should always match the rhetorical situation. So let me tell you about my experience using web designers. I like to use the analogy that a marriage is kind of like a web designer, and I've been divorced 5 times. Let me tell you the humorous tale of the 5 stories of the people that I've had that worked on my webpage. It was like a divorce and a sad ending. Great speech, you got to hear it. It's the story of humor. Now, the last thing that our book goes ahead and mentions here is a quote. And a Czech proverb said, do not protect yourself by your fence, but rather by your friends. So a quotation is an excellent way to introduce the speakers to your talk. And you want to remember, if you go ahead and use a quote, tell us where it's come from, because we always want to follow up and read more on that person. If you just tell us their name, we don't know where we can find them at. The second thing that you want to do in your speech is you want to state the specific topic and the purpose. So if I was working with you and I wanted to train you on how you could go ahead and give that TED speech, and many people dream about giving that TED speech, and today I'm going to teach you in this speech the 3 steps that you need to do to go ahead and make that happen. Now, the next part is the credibility. The credibility is what makes me unique and special. I've been there 3 times. I've trained over a dozen people, worked with over thousands of students, and had some of them realize their dreams come true. Now, the next thing is we preview the 3 main points. So I'm going to tell you what your speech is about. I'm going to tell you about the preparation process, and then I'm going to tell you about sending your manuscript in. So coming up with a concept, the preparation process, and how to go ahead and send your information in. Our textbook gives us another example, and it's really simple. If you talk about 3 ideas, first I'm going to go ahead and talk about the preparation, coming up with the idea. Second, I'm going to talk about scripting the speech, and third, I'm going to talk about how you go ahead and submit your manuscript. Using first, second, and third, it's really easy to follow in the body of what you're saying. The last part, it says motivate the audience to act. This only comes to play in the persuasive speech, which is our last one. And in our book, it goes ahead and gives an outline talking about the most important thing that you can learn is interviewing, and a lot of the information you'll learn in our class will help you for those interviewings. And it says, why do you need interviewing training? It boils down to competition. As in sports, when you're not trained, someone else is out there training to beat you. All things being equal, the person who has the best interviewing skill has got the edge. So Here's the checklist. Always look at the green boxes on the bottom of the page, and it says use stories, unusual facts, quotes, or humor to capture the audience attention and stimulate their interest. Establish a common bond with the listeners, perhaps by referring to the purpose of the occasion. Alert the listeners to special purpose and topic. Establish your credibility to attract the topic. Preview the main points of the speech and motivate them to take action. So it might be a good idea right now to think about what would be a way that you might introduce your talk to the class. Go on my webpage, go look down at the pages, and you will see something that's 30 different ways to go ahead and open up a speech. The one thing you want to remember is do not use a question. Everybody uses questions. Questions are absolutely boring. Now that we've given our speech, we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to wrap it up in the conclusion. The conclusion is just as important as the introduction. It's almost like you take the introduction and you go backwards, because that's what we do in the conclusion. We take us back to where we were before. So first you want to do is you want to signal that the speech is about to come to an end. One of the ways you can do that is finally looking back in conclusion. Let me close by saying these words. It looks like the phone is ringing. I got to go now. So all of these are ways that you can signal to the people that the conclusion is just about to come. You want to summarize the main points. You then want to remind the audience how your ideas will benefit them, which is kind of the specific purpose, and challenge the audience to remember and act upon your ideas. That will be in our persuasive speech. And lastly, you want to end the speech with impact. When you end the speech with impact, that is returning to the hook. That is returning to the hook. So let's go in the in-depth form. One thing is summarizing, giving an end. And you can signal by adjusting your volume, adjusting your voice, adjusting your tone. So now that we're slowing down, let's take us to the end of our speech. Or, ladies and gentlemen, we are now about to come to the end of our talk here. You're going to summarize the key points. I said I was going to tell you about number 1, how to come up with an idea for a TED Talk. Number 2, how to create that script. And number 3, how to go ahead and submit that application. Want to reiterate the topic and the purpose. It's many goals in life to get out there on a stage to make $1 million and stand in this class. You can do that and more. And challenge the audience to respond. A strong close and challenge is a call to action. So Hillary Rodham Clinton, in the book on page 115, had stated the following: "We have seen peace prevail in most places for half of a century. We've avoided another world war, but we've not solved older, deeper-rooted problems that continue to diminish the potential of half the world's population. Now it's the time to act on behalf of women everywhere. If we take bold steps to better the lives of women, we will be taking bold steps to better the lives of children and families. Let this conference be ours and the world's call to action." All right, so you want to bring your speech full circle back to the introduction. And I believe that is simply going ahead and restating the hook. And that's how we make it memorable. And the box gives us those key main points. Signal the end with the transition. End your speech after you signal about to close. A conclusion is no more than 1/6% of the time. We reiterate the main points. We reiterate what the specific goal is. We reiterate the benefit, and we take them back to the challenge. For a persuasive speech and for an informative speech, you simply take them back to the start. And that's a wrap. Please go ahead and write down the introduction for your speech and the conclusion of your speech, because that's going to be really important for your first assignment you're going to be turning in.